Welcome to the Rules Confirmation and Public Elections Committee meeting. We do have a quorum with myself, Councilmember Cash, Councilmember Gruppel, Evans, and Preston. So we're going to start off with the public comment. It doesn't look like anyone is signed up for public comments, so we're just going to keep it rolling. Next up is the consent agenda. So I have several items on consent. If there are any that need to be pulled, just let me know. So item number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we do have letters for approval for items number 1 and 3. Any that need to be pulled from consent? Nope. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and read the captions. So RS 2023-57 by Swara, Toombs, Kimbrough, and others honors their life of former Chancellor and Tennessee Court of Appeals Judge Richard Dinkins. RS 2023-58 by Allen recognizes the finalists for the Youth Civic Contest Show Us Your Nashville, hosted by Kidsinship and Vanderbilt University Project on Unity and American Democracy. RS 2023-59 by Gamble, Stiles, and Taylor recognizes the 50th anniversary of the Fisk University radio station WFSK. RS 2023-60 by Stiles recognizes the 125th anniversary of the YMCA Nashville and Middle Tennessee. RS 2023-61 by Vo recognizes October 2023 as Filipino American History Month in Nashville and Davidson County. RS 2023-62 by Evans and Stiles recognizes October 2023 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. RS 2023-63 by Gad Stiles recognizes October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Nashville and Davidson County, Tennessee. Can I get a motion?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, 6 in favor, 0 against. All right, now on to bills on second reading. BL 2023-3 by Sepulveda readopts the Code of Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, Tennessee, prepared by Municipal Code Corporation, including supplemental and replacement pages thereof containing certain ordinances of a general and permanent nature enacted on or before March 23, 2023. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Any non-voting? All right, 6 in favor, 0 against. All right, now we move on to elections and confirmations. First up is Metropolitan Director of Finance appointment of Mr. Kevin Crumbo. Ooh.
How are you? Nice to see you. Good.
All right, Mr.
My first order
Crumbo.
of business is run people over at the door, you know?
You know, sometimes it's just like that. All right, Mr. Crumbo, if you could come. Well, yeah.
Right, where do you
Yeah.
want-
Do you mind if
I'll move.
we put that chair in the middle for everyone coming before us?
Just make everyone stand.
Yeah. Stand right in the middle.
This is my council member, so he's gonna be nice to me. I don't know about the rest
Yeah, well.
of you. District 23.
If you want to come in the center.
Yes.
Nah.
Am I going this way?
Yeah. Okay. So, Mr. Crumbo, thank you for coming before us. Really appreciate it. Why don't you? Well, let me go ahead and ask the questions first. Do you live in Davidson County?
I do.
Great. Mr. Crumbo, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'll go to my colleagues and see if they have any questions.
Well, I'll be brief since I've held this role before in the first 2 years of the Cooper administration, and I've been asked a number of times, did I miss it that much that I would come back for this administration? And the answer is a resounding yes. It's a fabulous place to work. It's a fabulous thing to do, and I'd love to do it again.
Great, thank you so much. Any question from committee members?
Just comments, and I had a chance to work with Mr. Crumbo, and the first couple of years, amazing, great job. Glad to have you back. Did a lot of debt restructuring, did a lot of good stuff that improved our debt operating ratio, so very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Not a question, a comment.
Yes.
I had the pleasure of working with Mr. Crumbo as budget chair in 2021. Excellent experience. Mr. Crumbo is extremely sharp. The city was not in the best financial shape when Mr. Crumbo became finance director, and I think that we can credit a lot of the significant progress that the city has made and the good financial shape that we're currently in to your work. So I am happy to support your nomination.
So, Mr. Crumbo, I see here that you have been incredibly involved in the community here, which I absolutely love to see. I just wanted to see, because you list a number of positions, are you currently on the board, or are you a current member of any of the board positions that you have listed on your resume, and I can provide you this to
Yeah, I am, and I think the two really that you're interested in, the ones that have touch points with the Metro government. So I made it my policy last time, and I will do the same this time to resign those boards. And the Entrepreneurship Center in particular, the Nashville Symphony, and I'm not aware of any others that have touch points with the Metro government, but if we find some, then I will do the same thing. But I will say, not only is it a matter of, I think, good government practice, but I'm a CPA, and one of the things that we do there is to avoid not only conflicts in actuality, but also conflicts in appearance. And I don't think it's a good look to have those connections. So both those organizations know that if at least 21 of you think this is a good idea tonight, then I will call them tomorrow and no longer be a part of their board.
And in your brief tenure in this position previously, I'm curious to, I was sort of just based off of your experience, what do you feel as if was one of the most difficult decisions that you had to make that had the best long-term effect on the financial health of Nashville, Davidson County?
There's a lot to choose from there. In that 2 years, I was here just a few months, and we had a tornado and a pandemic and George Floyd's murder and so forth. I would say that despite all of the headlines and things that came out of budget and some things that Council Lady Toombs, I believe, was referring to, probably the most difficult was COVID monies that arrived, some $300 million plus to get started, and then there were another $200 million later that came in different forms, through our economy and some to the government directly. But making good, solid decisions about what was immediate relief and what were things the community needed then versus what was really going to be there to invest, in our future. And then, frankly, trying to communicate at that time that this money won't last forever. And we're starting to see the impact of that. And I've heard a lot of words associated with it, the cliff or the cliffs and so forth. And I think whether you believe in that, type of nomenclature or something close to it, we're arriving at that point. And quite frankly, I expect one of the challenges for the year ahead is going to be coming back to a lot of those same themes and looking at our normal operations here and seeing what's left of those monies, what do we need to invest in, and where really is that going to take us? Because we've learned a lot in that period of time, and I'm sure I will learn what the Metro government's learned soon, but I can tell you the rest of the community has been just thrilled, overall with the outcomes of that, and it's going to be, I think, our opportunity to lose right now in terms of perpetuating some of the goodness that came out of that.
Thank you.
How do you anticipate, speaking to that, kind of really assessing potentially, I don't know if it would be with Kristen Wilson or who within the administration, of really like the programs that have the potential to continue on and what that would look like, and then the ones that essentially, it was a one-time thing and we're not going to look at that. Do you have a potential thought in mind or plan, or is that something to come?
So obviously a lot to come on that topic, but as simple as it sounds, I think we have to go line by line of where monies, were received, what have they been spent on, has that been a positive experience, a not so positive experience? If it's the second category, is there still work to do there that would turn it the other way? And then starting to normalize a lot of what's happened there into our operations. And I think it was fabulous, the financial outcomes that we had at the beginning of that in light of a terrible situation, right? And I've heard a lot of words used around it, but at this point I think it's going to be line by line, seeing what's done. And then, frankly, I think a lot of those answers will rely with the council. Right, there's been, a lot of uproar about 40 council members, 20 council members, and so forth. But when I think about this particular issue, how lucky are we to have 40 voices from around the community to come back together, comment on this? And that's a different 40 voices than were here the first time. Some are the same, right? Some are different. And I think the large part of the council will decide what we do with that.
I like that answer. Let me ask another question. So I think one of the things that I felt like I was challenged with personally during the last budget cycle was really how the process of like full-time equivalent and part-time positions that would go unfilled kind of year after year, and then ultimately we're not able to kind of apply that money other places. That part, and then also it kind of felt like from I was only on budget this last year, so it was all new information in many ways to me, but some of the forecasting kind of related to our revenues and some of those expectations around forecasting, probably I know we take a very conservative approach when we look at some of those things. So are there opportunities in particular around working with departments on the positions that they're trying to hire for, if they are not potentially jobs that are paying very well, they cannot fill, but they're continuing to come back and ask for those positions year after year, of there being more kind of collaboration, I guess, between HR, the department, finance, on really what should move forward, because I felt I struggled with that last time.
Yeah, and I think that will be a perennial struggle as we go forward. So I think you have two questions there. The first one is about filling positions, the other one on the revenue forecast. And I'm going to explain them in reverse, just for those that aren't new to this topic. So I think what you're really referring to is it's the finance director who determines what that revenue forecast is going to be each year. And that's a tough job, right? You have to find the best crystal ball with the best batteries to run it and do the best you can to predict really what's there. And that's not easy. But as I've heard one person term it, it's like the Price is Right. You need to get as close as you possibly can without going over, because if you go over, we'll budget more than we actually expect to take in with it. And to my knowledge, that has not happened. I had a chart the last time I was here that showed that most of the directors over the years, like some 20 years or so, have gotten within just a few percentage points of the actual number. Hopefully we will continue to do the same, but if we do a good job of the top line, then it gives us a better sense of what our expenses really can be, right? And we try not to go forward with it. A lot of the departments that have specific monies tied to that revenue stream then need to budget for those positions based on that. The easiest one for most people to see are grants. So when we have a grant for a grant-funded position, not only when can we schedule it, but when do we actually receive those monies? What type of grant is it? Does it come up front, or do we essentially need to bank it? Like we're the banker, and then we have to go apply and get it back. That's common with education and some other areas. So I think the two are tied pretty closely together. As I go through a schedule of what's filled and unfilled, that'll start in January. That's when the budget process is there. I can expect right now there probably is a pretty good list of unfilled positions, not just because people don't want to fill them, but I think we're competing with the rest of the economy here for wages and jobs, and can we afford to be there? So time will tell how that works out, but that revenue forecast is always a challenge for every director, every mayor, every council.
So you're not going to solve it, is what I'm hearing.
Well, how do you solve it? I mean, if you can predict the economy, that'd be awesome. Let me know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions from committee members? Okay, well, once again, thank you, Mr. Crumbo, for being here. We had the opportunity to talk at the end of last week. I'm glad that you're going to be looking at those remaining funds from the ARP committee. We haven't met in a minute. But there are great programs that were started out of CARES Act and ARP funds. And hopefully the results that have been kept by many of these organizations and how it has impacted communities, you all can take a look at as you deliberate how do we address some of these issues in our budget, because you're right, the money doesn't last forever. And I am very, very happy that you are going to be looking at things from an equity lens, as we have discussed before within your department, and I'm very optimistic about that. All right, any other questions? All right, and with that, we'll be voting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? Okay. That's 7 in favor, 0 against. Thank you, Mr. Crump. All right, next is Metropolitan Director of Law, appointment of Mr. Wallace Deeds. Director Deeds, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Do you live in Davidson County?
I do.
Thank you. All right, please tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go to questions from the committee.
I am a native Nashvilleian. I actually am old enough to remember the first day that Metro came into existence, because my father was a reporter at the Tennessean, and he was covering the story in April of 1963. And so I left for about 10 years to go to college, and I worked in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill for a U.S. senator, went to law school, and moved back in 1982. I've lived here since then. I got my law license in 1982. I practiced law first with as a law clerk for a federal judge, Tom Wiseman, and then at the law firm Bass, Berry & Sims for 38 years. Then unexpectedly, the mayor called me and asked me to take this job a little over 2 years ago. So I've been in this position since the end of June 2021, and it's been a terrific honor for me to serve in this position.
Thank you so much. Questions from the committee? Yes. You're recognized.
Thanks. I appreciate your work the last couple of years and the candor and when explaining all the cases that, especially that have been before you, before the department, before the city, and especially those that impacted us this past year. Just if reappointed, what are some of your? I got just a broad question. What are some of your goals about how to improve the department?
It's a great question. What I would say, let me take that in two phases. One is what are my most important priorities in the next couple of years, and then what would I do to improve the department, which was your specific question. But if I may expand it just ever so slightly, I believe the litigation we have against the state is existential. I said in March that I thought the Metro Council lawsuit was the most important lawsuit in the history of Metro, and I still believe that. And the fact that we have a 40-member council seated here in October after the elections is something I'm very excited about. We are going to be in litigation with the state for at least 2 more years. It will take that long for the 4 cases we have filed to work their way through the courts of appeals. And so we need to be focused on that. I have a great team of litigators, and we are confident that we are on the right side of the Constitution and the rights that we have here in Metro. So that is my number 1 priority. In terms of improving the department, I want to say this first. I left a law firm at the top of the Pinnacle Tower that believed that it was an exceptional group of attorneys, and they are, and continue to be. I have benefited from an exceptional group of attorneys in Metro Legal. These lawyers are fabulous at what they do. They are dedicated. They are public servants. Every single one of them could make a fair bit more money in the private sector. Some have left and then come back because they just love being at Metro. So I appreciate my group of lawyers. They are really great people, and they are really, really outstanding lawyers, whether they're on the litigation side or the client advice side. In terms of things about how to improve, I think communication is something that I keep focusing in our meetings. make sure our clients are being kept up to date. And I think, I think we do a good job of that. I think we could do a little bit better. And so I focus on that in our internal meetings. There are some things that we are deeply involved in, often working with the mayor's office, that are sort of out of the limelight. We have done extensive work with Metro codes, and we are trying to build stronger relationships there and to enhance our enforcement efforts in environmental court and other places and Metro codes, and that is a priority for me. That's something that we have spent a lot of time on. It's sort of out of the limelight, but it's something that we have several lawyers deeply invested in.
I've been to environmental court and witnessed some of the stuff that's not on the limelight, and I agree with you that there's some room for improvement there.
We are working on it, and we're working on it in coordination with the leadership at Codes, and in the last 8-9 months of Mayor Cooper's administration, Kristen Wilson put together a team. We met every Friday and talked. It was codes, legal, and we talked about how to make some improvements there. In terms of other things, and we will be out with our hat in hand when it comes to budget season. We need more lawyers. We have a lot of lawyers, but our lawyers are really busy. We work at night, we work on the weekends. It's part of the job that comes with the territory, and we'll be asking for more legal support. So I hope that gives you at least some insight into what I'm thinking. Did I?
It does. You're up for reappointment,
Yes.
but we have a new mayor and a bunch of new council members. So I just hope that we're all kind of looking at things fresh and how we can do things better. And that's why I wanted to ask you that you're not just
Fair enough.
that you're in that frame of mind somewhat too. That
Yeah.
hey, it's a new day. We gotta reinvent the wheel.
No, it's a great question, and I like the question, and I like this is actually a good process for me to go through, to say, okay, what have we done, what have we accomplished, what can we work on to be better? And I guarantee you, the mayor has asked me exactly the question, the new mayor has asked me exactly the question you've asked me. So he is all about making sure we're doing things as well as we can, and so I remain hopeful.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. I have a question related to the letter that we received today, and I don't know if you know about it or had a chance to read it.
Unfortunately, I do.
Okay, I have a question that's specific to something in the letter, and so I'll just ask if you're able to comment on any part of the letter, or is this, I don't know if any of the information was privileged that was provided to us or not.
There are multiple allegations in the letter. Some things I can talk about, some things I probably can discuss only in a limited way because there's still ongoing litigation. We are in litigation with Mr. Horowitz. And so, but I'd be interested in what topic you would like me to address.
I think the topic that stood out to me the most was related to the domestic violence incident, and I guess really the question is around the policy side, and the outcome related to, potential policy changes that it kind of sounded like, there was potential agreement on were necessary. And how do we connect kind of, I guess, these kinds of cases or situations to policy if we're not part of the process, obviously, except
Right.
for the resolution approval, when the time comes for a settlement. So I guess I read it and thought about really related to that policy piece, because it just seems like we're passing a resolution tonight related to domestic violence.
Right.
So to me, it stood out substantially.
I understand. The allegation made me go back and spend 90 minutes a day going through our file and the negotiations that have taken place between Metro and Mr. Horowitz. And Mr. Horowitz has cherry-picked bits and pieces and given, frankly, it's misleading at least, if not more, understanding of what those negotiations are. If anybody on this council wants to see, you also are my clients, I would ask you to keep it totally confidential, because I don't plan to try this lawsuit in the media. The judges don't like that, our clients don't like it, it's not the right way to do it. But in terms of the policy changes, one of the two changes that he has asked for, we believe, after working with the police department, would backfire and make situations actually worse, not better. Another one we don't believe had any impact on this particular case. It was a tragedy. Everyone agrees this was a tragic situation, and we all wish it had not happened. But I will say this, because this is the piece I wanted to be able to answer tonight. I can guarantee you Metro Legal would never advise any client, Metro Police or any client, not to make policy changes that would make the world safer for people who live here as a bargaining chip in litigation. If we believed the policy changes that were requested were helpful, we would have implemented them already with Metro Police. And so I want to make it clear, we are not holding hostage a policy change that that we believe would save lives. We're not. It becomes very complicated in negotiating a lawsuit when the plaintiff's lawyer is demanding policy changes and money. Frankly, Mr. Horowitz and we disagree on the risk of winning and losing in this case. We significantly disagree, and that's what litigation is about. But Mr. Horowitz's accusation is fundamentally flawed. It did not happen.
May I ask another question?
Of course.
So is that, is that, I guess, not being familiar with all the processes, but is that something that it would be a normal consideration from a settlement perspective to look at if there's a policy ask that your potential settlement is reduced as a result?
We separate the two.
Okay.
If there's a policy ask, we'll talk to the client about it and evaluate that separately. But in the case where a plaintiff's lawyer is requesting a policy change that we do not believe would move the needle in favor of public safety, and would be an additional bureaucratic burden, then we're not likely to recommend that unless we have a total package. That doesn't mean we're not implementing policy changes we believe are helpful. And so we try to separate the two. The truth here in this case is that we have a significant disagreement about the value of the case and the claim and who's going to win and who's going to lose. Mr. Horowitz sent his email at 1 a.m. and he's full of rage and anger, and frankly, that's his MO. It's not unusual for me to get emails from him at 1 in the morning. Often I try to ignore them. This one, I didn't believe I had the luxury to ignore. So I want to be as candid as I can without divulging confidential information in a lawsuit that's still pending. But I can give you my assurance, if we believed any of the changes he and his client wanted would have helped improve public safety, they would already have been implemented.
I appreciate your information. Thank you.
All right, other questions? Yes.
Director Dietz, I have a question for you with regards to initiation of lawsuits. You stated earlier, and I agree with you, that aspects of our litigation against the state are truly existential towards Nashville, Davidson County. And oftentimes within these kinds of litigations, both in state and federal court, we have to come up with novel arguments just because the law still has not addressed everything. And so my question is, generally, could you walk us through your decision-making process as to when you do or do not decide to file suit on a specific area? Because I think that's something that is apt as a new council member to understand. understand sort of what your calculus is in deciding when to continue a case or when to file a case. A prime example is the sidewalk case. One of the questions that I had for your office is why not petition for cert after the Sixth Circuit, understanding that might be a hostile venue. But just wanting to understand what your calculus is in that.
Thank you, Counselor, and thank you for being my council member. So the general process is, and I think this is true for it should be true for every lawyer, which is, the first question is, do we have a claim? Do we have a valid legal claim? Can we argue facts in law where we are taking a legitimate case and controversy to the court? I think we have ethical obligations as lawyers. When my name goes on a complaint, I am certifying that it's not brought for purposes of delay or harassment or anything else, that I believe the claims are being asserted in good faith. So it starts with that. So we do an analysis of the facts in the law. We've done that on all of the 4 cases we filed. We also did it in connection with the COB statute, and I'm happy to address that if anyone would like to speak about that. But we believe that we have an ethical obligation not to assert claims unless we believe that they are in good faith. And you're right, sometimes you try novel theories, sometimes you try things that are pushing legitimate boundaries. The other thing is, we do have limited resources. Is it a priority for us? Is it something we should invest our resources in? Is it something our clients are interested in? Does it advance our clients' claims? We do cases in environmental court all the time, where we're the moving party and we try to get a result and try to get some justice there in terms of violations and other things. That's proven to be more difficult than I thought it would be. But in terms of, for instance, the sidewalk case, and there was a snippet of this in the Horowitz email. Well, from the time the prior council adopted the sidewalk ordinance and the time the Sixth Circuit ruled, the law on Fifth Amendment takings had moved dramatically because of rulings from the Supreme Court in favor of property owners and against government takings. So when that law passed, we believed and we advised the council that it was constitutional. And in between that and the Sixth Circuit decision, the Sixth Circuit disagreed. We didn't even agree on which standard applied, but in terms of asking for en banc or filing a petition, application for permission to appeal to the Supreme Court, we thought it'd be a waste of time. And in fact, we thought it might be a chance for the Supreme Court to make law that would actually hinder local governments in trying to build sidewalks and do those things. So in the meantime, we're working on settlements to the people who paid in lieu of building sidewalks, and we're rolling those out almost immediately, and we're making settlements to those who actually built a sidewalk to pay them back, plus interest for what they put out to pay for that. So the law moved against us.
So just very quickly, does novelty ever come into the calculus as a reason not to file a suit?
If the law is unsettled, this is a. I don't often have to decide whether or not Metro is going to file suit, because the routine things that happen with codes and environmental court, that just happens. I'm not involved in those decisions. The only decisions I've been involved in that have resulted in litigation are the 4 cases against the state that we filed this year after what we believe was egregious overreach. And I've been involved in the decision not to file the suit over the COD bill because we believed that it did not violate the Constitution as much as we didn't like it, and wish we could have reached a different result. So, you know, the truth is, council member, I've never been presented with the opportunity in this job to file a lawsuit with a novel claim. We believe the Home Rule Amendment cases are based on the clear language of the Constitution and the case law that developed since 1953. So we believe we're squarely in the mainstream of that. And so far, the courts seem to be agreeing with us.
Thank you.
Councilmember.
Thank you. So we were just talking about situations where Metro is in the plaintiff position, but when we are being sued for certain things, I'm wondering, we in each agenda, usually multiple times, I don't know that we've ever had an agenda where we weren't approving some sort of settlement for something. And I get frustrated by it because I just wonder sometimes, should we fight this? Because sometimes I think sometimes things are frivolous, and I understand we have some resource issues where it's like weighing the option of spending those resources to fight something, that whatever, but I also know that we have a few attorneys that's their job, is they just sue the city, understanding that more likely than not it's gonna be settled, and it works out really well for them, which frustrates me on the behalf of the taxpayer. Do you have any thoughts on that? Are you frustrated? Is this just me being frustrated? Are you frustrated with that? And is that something that could be addressed if we were to increase the number of attorneys on staff so that it wouldn't be so burdensome to fight those things, so that maybe we wouldn't have so many frivolous lawsuits being brought forth?
So I'll answer that a couple of different ways. Every settlement we present to the council, and the vast majority of them are automobile cases. We believe that there's at least a 50% chance we would lose, or in a comparative negligence analysis, we would be tagged with some liability. And we believe it's better to shut that down. And there are some cases where, for instance, a Metro employee rear ends a car stopped at a red light, and that car's been there for 10 seconds. Well, we should pay that person money because Metro was negligent and caused them to suffer damages and maybe physical damages. So we think those claims are the right claims to pay. I don't remember, because I have to sign off on all the settlement resolutions. There are so many cases and claims filed that you don't see the volume of cases where we decline. We just say we're not liable. If you want to sue us, we'll defend. And we have a very active state court tort defense practice. We have 2 separate teams on that. And they go to court all the time, and they are really good, and they win a lot of cases for us. So could we use 1 or 2 more lawyers on that team? Probably, but we don't. If a claim is frivolous, it's handled first in our claims division, and those people are essentially insurance adjusters, looking at the risk analysis, and then, if they think we should settle, they will bring it to us. We have settlement committee meetings twice a month, and it results in things on your agenda. So I hope I'm directly answering your question, but we will not suggest a settlement if the claim is frivolous. Every time we come to the council asking the council to approve the settlement, we believe that there's some risk of at least some liability, and in most cases, the settlements we suggest are less than what we estimate the outcome would be if we went to trial and did try the case.
All right, I'm gonna have Councilmember Toombs be the last one, because we do have other people.
Director Dees, and this conversation is gonna have to, I know, carry past this meeting, but what is your approach to ensuring that you hire diverse attorneys in the legal department?
We advertise in the Luby Bar Association. We actively outreach in terms of networks, African Americans, Latino. We actively do that. I am sorry that in the last year we have lost 2 of our minority attorneys, and I'm hopeful that we will continue to have some success in hiring there. It's something that we think about and work on and try to do. So right before I came, we lost one of our senior lawyers to COVID. And then we lost two of our younger lawyers, one of whom got an amazing in-house counsel, general counsel of a company in Mount Juliet that manufactures wheelchairs. And she's got a family member who needs a wheelchair. So for her, it's a work of passion, and she's the general counsel of that company. So it's a competitive market, but it is something that's important to me.
Well, thank you so much, Director Dietz. With that, we're gonna go ahead and take a vote. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, 7 in favor, 0 against. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, up next, Stormwater Management Commission reappointment of Mr. Trey Lewis for a term expiring on October 31st, 2027. Mr. Lewis? Is there a Mr. Lewis here? Okay, I'm gonna move for a 1 meeting deferral. Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 7 in favor, 0 against for a 1 meeting deferral. Next is Tourism and Convention Commission reappointment of Mr. Howard Kittle for a term expiring on June 30th, 2026. All right, welcome. Do you need a parking validation?
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Terrific.
Thank you so much.
Easy question.
All right, do you currently live in Davidson County?
I do,
Do you
yes.
serve on any other boards and commissions?
I do not.
You, all right, why don't you briefly tell us a little bit about yourself, and then if any committee members have questions, we'll go into that.
Okay. Well, I'm a almost 15-year resident of Davidson County. Next month it'll hit 15 years. Live in the county, District 4, but I'm the CEO of the Hermitage, not the hotel, but the historic house out in Hermitage, and a job I've had for the 15 years, and we're very interested in tourism to Nashville. We want to help promote it, and I feel like for me, the serving on the Tourism Commission is an excellent way to bring my skill set to bear and to help support the city. And I feel a great commitment to Nashville.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the committee members?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my question for you is, so this is a reappointment for you, but I'm curious as to know what your approach would be to try and attract or highlight more the diverse history of Nashville, because Nashville's a city that was at the heart of our civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
And when people think of Nashville and tourism right now, the big thing that they're thinking about is honky tonks.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you seek to highlight more the diversity of the history and the diversity of availability for tourists to explore that here in Nashville?
I'm a great believer in marketing, for one thing, and promoting a critical mass of any one topic. So right now in Nashville, music is sort of the driver, or music-related businesses and all that, and we've created that critical mass in the public's mind. I think there are so many diverse sites in the city that represent diversity, the diversity of the city in the past and today as well. And it's making sure that we can create in the public's mind, both in the city but beyond, the markets that are drawn here, that sense of what are the things that are here to be seen. And I think the National Museum of African American Music is one of the great ways to sort of the nucleus of creating that sense of critical mass. But I would say the Tennessee State Museum, we do the same thing, is that there are diverse stories or stories of diversity at all of these sites, and it's making sure that the public who's looking at Nashville understands all these places to come and see, and making sure that what's being presented is accurate.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, 7 in favor, 0 against. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
All right, next is the Work Release Board appointment of Ms. Shannon Musgrave for a term expiring on January 1st, 2027. All right, if you want to come forward, do you need a parking validation?
No, I got it as I came in.
Okay.
If you wanna give me a spare.
Do you currently live in Davidson County?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you live on, do you serve on any other boards and commissions?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Tell us, real briefly, a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go into questions.
Well, I attended the sheriff's office, their program, the civilian program, and so whenever Deshae Hearn reached out and asked would any of us be interested, I am retired from Dearson Charities, which is a federal reentry program that's here in Nashville. And part of my job as a counselor when I was there was helping them get back into the workforce and housing and savings accounts and everything else they needed to have a normal working life prior to release from the Federal Bureau of Prisons. So when she reached out for this program, I thought there's a way since retirement for me to still be involved and be able to reach out and help and get them back on their feet so they can be productive when they're released.
Great, thank you so much. Any questions? Well, I really want to thank you for that work.
Thank you.
Having two brothers who were formerly incarcerated for a couple of years, I know that the reentry is often difficult, especially if they don't have a support system in place, and the system ultimately worked for them, but that's
Good.
not always the case.
It's not. And it's
so-
very sad to see that whenever, so many times I would have, because this was a federal level, and so many times they would be gone for so long that everybody that was rah, rah, cheer, cheer behind them by the time they were released did not have that. And it was very sad in a lot of cases, so.
I do appreciate your
Congrats to
willingness
your
to serve. All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, 7 in favor, 0 against. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I don't know if, Mr. Lewis is here, so I don't know if we need to rescind action on the deferral motion to take him up for stormwater management.
Director Darby, is there a threshold specifically for rescinding a motion in committee?
I think is it a 2/3? Give me 1 second and I will look. Someone can move to rescind the action though.
I'll move to rescind the action so that we can hear.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? All right. Action rescinded, no need for the question. Mr. Lewis, if you want to come forward.
Apologies, I've been out in the hall, didn't know.
Oh.
Didn't know we had to come in here and stand first. So.
Do you need a parking validation?
No.
Okay. Do you currently live in Davidson County? Do you serve on any other boards and commissions?
I'm an alternate to the equalization.
What was that?
I'm an alternate to the equalization board.
Okay. Thank you for that. All right, tell us very briefly a little bit about yourself and we'll go into any questions.
Native Nashvilleian, born and raised in Davidson County. In the construction real estate business, I work for Tennessee's largest independent home builder. And we're very familiar with a lot of the proper stormwater practices and like to see those implemented throughout and know what the lack of proper methods do to the community. And so the Greater Nashville Realtors asked me to serve on their behalf.
Great. Thank you so much. Are there any questions from committee members?
Yes, sir.
Do you think we need to change our regulations for infill stormwater right now with all the incremental flooding that's occurring?
You know, there's a fine line between what was done in the past and what's being done in the future.
Right.
And it's hard to fix the problems that are caused by developments in the past. So it's a case-by-case basis. But one of the things we have to do is look a little closer on legislation to what affects the downtown core compared to the suburban areas. One law will not fit all.
True. Okay, thanks. I will extend on that.
Okay. Any other questions from committee members? All right, let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, 7 in favor, 0 against. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next is the Work Release Board appointment, Mr. Jesus Gonzalez Jr. for a term expiring on January 1st, 2026. Mr. Gonzalez, thank you for being here. Do you need a parking validation?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
All right. Do you currently live in Davidson County?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you serve on any other boards and commissions?
No, ma'am.
All right, tell us very briefly a little bit about yourself and we'll go into questions.
I've lived here in Metro Nashville since '98. I see this more of a passion for me than anything else. I grew up as a child of an ex-con. Went through community rehab programs with my family 4 or 5 different times. So the work release board for me is kind of like a natural transition for passion into actually doing something tangible. Going to school, back to school, pursuing a psychology degree, emphasis on forensic psychology, minor in criminal justice. So this seems like a natural fit to serve and to explore a passion.
All right, thank you so much. Any questions from committee members? Yes? We got,
We've got 10 minutes.
Yeah, we got 9 minutes. Yeah, just spit it. Just-
Well, I'm trying to think. So, actually, no. We're good. Yeah.
All right.
You can talk to me afterwards.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
We can talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, 7 in favor, 0 against. Thank you so much for your willingness to serve.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, next we have the Short-Term Rental Appeals Board election to fill 2 vacancies from council member nominations for terms expiring August 31st, 2027. There are 2 people who have withdrawn, is my understanding, and that is Jay Jackson, who's withdrawn, and also Kirk Loom. Is that correct? Any? Yep. All right. So that leaves us 2. Wow. Okay. So first up is Mike Loico.
Correct. Hello.
Is that how you pronounce
Yes,
your last
Loico.
name?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Nominated by Councilmember Cap. Thank you so much for being here. Do you need a parking validation?
Thank you.
Okay. Do you currently live in Davidson County?
Yes, I do.
Do you serve on any other boards and commissions?
No, I do not.
Great. Tell us very briefly a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Let's see, I've lived in Davidson County since 2005. And my day job is I work for an aerospace defense company. I'm a computer nerd. But I also am an operator of 2 short-term rentals. And so I think that, and I've been an operator, so I've owned 2 of them since 2014. Back before there was legislation, I was just considered a regular landlord back then. It's kind of the Wild West, and it was a very different time back then. I've been, excuse me, I'm on the appeals board, or I guess my term just expired, since its inception in 2020, and have really enjoyed my time there, and I'd like to continue.
Great. Thank you so much. Are there any questions from committee members? All right. Well, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, we are 6 in favor, 0 against. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Nicole Williams, nominated by Councilmember Porterfield. Do you need a parking validation?
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Do you currently reside in Davidson County?
Yes.
Do you serve on any other boards and commissions?
No.
Thank you so much. Tell us very briefly a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so I've lived in Nashville since I was 8 years old. This is my home, this is my city. I live in Councilmember Horton's district, and I am a bit of a Metro nerd. I've watched every BZA meeting going back to 2012. I need to talk to the clerk about how I get videos before that, but that's as far back as it goes on YouTube. Every council meeting going back to 2010, every planning commission meeting going back to 2012, and every short-term rental appeals board meeting since its inception. So I've seen all of the iterations of the ordinance, and I've seen how they play out at the council level and at the appeals level. I've seen every short-term rental appeal that any board in Metro has ever considered. So I'm very familiar with the different iterations, which is important because the state, in their short-term rental act, made it so that you have to consider appeals, like they have to be adjudicated under the ordinance that was in place at the time that the person acquired their permit. So it can be a little confusing. You have to consider different cases under different iterations of the ordinance. So my knowledge of all of that, I think, would be useful for the board, and I'm always looking for ways to serve my city that I love so much and want to see flourish and thrive.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any questions from committee members? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, that is 6 in favor, 0 against. And just real quickly before we end, we will be having a special call meeting for the Rules Committee to discuss rules changes. Has that been?
I think it's 26th.
Yes, it's the 26th at 5 p.m.
Oh,
Do you have, is everyone having an issue with?
Bellevue is having their meeting that day, and I got 3 meetings. Anyhow,
I will be out of the state then.
I will.
Bellevue and,
Bellevue,
No,
the
she's like,
mayor
I don't
and
care
5
about
council members are there.
okay, all right. We'll follow up with the email to the rest of the committee members.
Yeah,
All right.
I know a
Nicole.
bunch of us are going that. Sherry invited.
Yeah, I do.
All right, well, that concludes
My
our
dad's name is
meeting, I
Mike.
guess. Vice Chair, you wanna make a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, I move to adjourn.
I know, there's no, no. All right, thanks, guys.
We stay.